Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Gabbing with Gabby. And today I have guitarist and instructor Bob Boss. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the show.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being here. Bob Boss is one of the instructors for the Young Lions Jazz Conservatory. We are in the middle of our Young Lions Jazz Conservatory series. They are actually having a fundraiser on August 1st. You can see Bob performing there, along with a lot of other amazing jazz musicians. Jazz in San Diego is strong, it's alive, and the conservatory is a place where they bring in young kids from middle school all the way to high school and kind of foster their love of jazz, their love of music. And these instructors do amazing jobs with these kids. And I mean, the kids come you hungry and willing to learn and full of talent, but these instructors take them up just another couple of levels, and it's just amazing to watch. So I am so excited to have you on here, and to get to know you a little bit better, because we've always been in Gilbert's ensemble, so I don't get to sit and speak with the other instructors. So I'm really happy to have you on here. And you're a guitarist, which is, I don't think it's an instrument that you always see in jazz, especially with the kids, right? So, Bob, tell us a little bit about your background with jazz guitar and just music in general. We would, want to hear about that, and then we'll go into a little bit of how you got to the conservatory.
Okay. So I started playing guitar fairly early age, 11 or something like that, and about maybe a year before the Beatles were on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, everyone had an electric guitar, but I had one a little bit before, just as a fluke.
All right. Yeah.
And I started playing just kind of by ear. I had a teacher that showed me how to tune the guitar and said, listen to the radio, sing along with it, and learn by ear as quickly as you can, and try and play whatever songs are on the radio that you like. And then suddenly there was a huge amount of rock and roll to learn from the radio. And then I started playing with the drummer, and I started performing in public, for school and then for parties. And then, but by the time I got to high school, we moved to a new school, and the school band would not allow guitar.
Oh no! What?
Guitar was rock and roll. It was the work of the devil, it was going to ruin everything. So the school band did not have a guitar. Wouldn't allow it at all. They wanted me to join the boys' choir, which was terrible. So I couldn't do that because I wasn't interested in it. But they hired a rock and roll band. I joined when I moved there. One kid's family moved away, so I just came in and took his place. We auditioned for the schools, the whole district, and they knew they had to have rock and roll bands for all the dances. So they didn't teach me anything at all, but they paid me to perform every Friday night. Every Friday night we went to a different high school and played the first couple of years. And,
okay.
And it was the same thing when I went to college. They said no classical guitar, but no electric guitar at all. By the time I finished, they had a program. They had a jazz big band.
Oh,
and
nice.
My friends were in that, and so they, I had never learned to read music, but they invited me to come and play some solos. I said, well, I can't read. How would I play with a big band? We'll tell you when to play. You'll know what to do. And so I was a guest with those guys, even though I didn't have any classes other than some general ed classes. So I didn't really hear any jazz till I was in high school. I had a friend on the football team who played string bass. And I went to his house after football one day to go have dinner or something. He invited me over, and he had a string bass in the corner. I said, is that yours? Oh, yeah. And then he had a bunch of good jazz records. He listened to late night radio on ham radio. And so we were out kind of in the suburbs, and he had a whole bunch of good records. So we kind of swapped record collections because he hadn't been listening to rock at all. So.
Oh, how funny. So you grew up listening to rock and roll music.
Yeah.
When you were playing was it a big band jazz band that you were guest playing?
That was my last year in college, though. Yeah, and that was
but at that point you knew you had heard jazz because that was
because even when we played rock, we improvised a lot, but we didn't really know about harmony. We just played on one chord, It was pretty simple compared to what you have to do when you're playing, jazz.
Yes. So when you heard jazz, was your mind blown? Did you think, oh man, I love this stuff?
His friend had a Wes Montgomery record, and I thought, that's just a miracle. How does he do that? I have no idea.
Did you want to know right away
Yeah,
and
I wanted
learn?
to try. I copied some of the things, and then it took me a couple of years. So I finally found a book that had some info about jazz chords and harmonies. So I found that,
Hmm.
and I learned slowly, a little at a time. But I was going to college and studying literature, so. But I made friends with other musicians right away, and most of them turned out to be professional musicians later.
Yes.
So
Are
it
you
was always,
mostly self-taught?
yeah, mostly.
Wow. Can
I
you
could,
read music now or no?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Not as fast as I would like to be able to, but yeah, I had to learn because the other older musicians said, "Here, I wrote this today. Let's play it." I said, "Oh, I can't read this." Well, trust your ear then. Good luck. And so I had to
Yeah.
slowly learn how to read music, and I'm
And you
still
taught
working on
that yourself to yourself as well?
it.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
you can get some books, and then other musicians will help you if you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still are. Sometimes something will look confusing. I'll say, "Sing this for me," and then the other people in the band usually know. So,
Hmm.
but a lot of
So,
people went to school for music, and there were no opportunities really for a guitar for that. So
hmm
other kids.
so after college, then what happened with wait, you have a master's degree in literature, correct?
Yeah, and humanities basically. I had kind of a special major because I didn't really think of music as a career. My parents had convinced me it wasn't a good idea, so I should study
Right.
anything else, but I had to get my degree. And
Hmm.
during the Vietnam War, I had to be in college or go straight to Vietnam.
Right.
They took our
Right.
birth dates out of the lottery,
Hmm.
and mine was the fourth one they picked. So I had a
Ooh.
student deferment, so I stayed in college. By the time I finished my master's, the war was over, and the
Hmm.
draft was over not too long after that. But
Right.
then I thought, well, I'm going to teach humanities and teach about the arts. Maybe I should try doing it first,
Hmm.
rather than I've been
Okay.
in school my entire life.
Uh-huh.
But then I knew a lot of musicians I was in Chico, which is a small town, so it was easy to break into the music scene, go sit in places, and people hired me. They liked what I was doing, and then they slowly taught me.
Hmm.
Told
Were
me when I was
you
lost, and the older guys were pretty rude.
right?
Like, learn now.
Yeah. Were you mostly playing jazz or were you still playing a mix of music?
It was a mix still. It still is actually. I'm playing a rock and roll band on this Sunday, but if it's up to me, I like to play jazz. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. And then when did you finally find yourself in San Diego?
Oh, not until 1984. We lived in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
First, I lived in Chico for a couple of years, and then I realized, well, I was playing with some of the best guys in town, but there was nobody really to inspire me to move too much forward. But some guys came up from Oakland, and they
Hmm.
sounded wonderful, so I wanted to move down there. So I moved to Berkeley and lived there for a few years. Got married there, and then we moved down to Oceanside in '84.
Okay. And you've been here since then. And at that time, I don't think at that time there was a lot of jazz going on around here. Was it as big as it is now?
No, not at all. There wasn't. In fact, there wasn't even really good coffee yet. It was kind of out in the sticks. I mean, and I thought,
That's
well,
true, right?
I'll have more of a chance to perform every night. And in the Bay Area, there were a lot of great musicians and not that much work. You know,
Okay.
so I had experience to learn a lot, but then I thought, these guys are going to think I'm just the guy that's just getting it together, and I think I'll always be that way to
Hmm.
them. So I
Right.
thought if I move to San Diego, I'll be a bigger fish, a smaller pond. There was less musicians, especially doing what I did, and then it worked out just great.
Right.
I was able to work 5 nights a week from the time I got here, just constantly, and then
Were you playing at local bars or were
yeah,
you doing parties?
back then you could play 5 nights a week in one place for months or maybe a year.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Was Croce's around at that time or
Later,
not?
a little bit later, yeah, but I played there right when they first opened too, and the
Hmm.
gas lamp was still pretty wild, still
Yeah.
raunchy and crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot.
Where Petco is now, it used to be Island and K down there.
Yeah,
Actually, that's where you could find parking, and then you would have to run out of there to get to Fifth Avenue because it was a little dodgy.
yeah, yeah. I had an older car for a while there, and the hood didn't lock. And I came out
Yeah.
of Croce's one night, and I went to start the car, and the battery was gone.
Oh,
They just stole the battery. And
somebody needed it.
they didn't have to. They didn't cut the cables. They took the time and took a wrench and undid it.
Oh, they had no idea that it was. All they'd had to do was just go in there and snip. If only if they knew, they would have been done a lot faster.
Yeah, they weren't in a big hurry. They just they took the cables off and went and
Oh
sold
my
it
goodness.
somewhere for, you know, whatever they wanted to do. And then our friend Daniel Jackson was playing there next door, and he came out and said, "Oh, I've got a battery at home. I'll get a spare one. I'll go get it for you." So because
Oh,
there was
that's
no place
nice.
open at 2 in the morning, you know.
Right,
And
right,
we
exactly.
went and got a battery, and we put it in the car, and I took it back to him a couple of days later.
Now, how did you come to find Gilbert and connect with Gilbert?
Well, when he started the jam sessions down here, you know, I heard about him
Mm,
from other musicians, and then I went and sat in and played with him at the, you know, he's been really good about having jam sessions from the very first
mm,
time he was here, you know, that,
yeah.
and of course he sounded great. He always has. He practices like nobody else, and he's one of the best musicians I've ever
Mm,
met. So it's
mm.
inspiring to play with him. But living in Oceanside, I wasn't going to go there every night, every week, and play at the jam session. And he always invite me and, come on, gotta play. The young guys need to hear you.
Yeah,
And
just
so,
encourage you. That's
yeah,
nice.
so you know, I forget where the first place he was even, but he's changed venues 4 or 5 times. But as soon as
Hmm.
one ends for whatever reason, he always finds another one right away. So
Hmm.
before him, the Jimmy and Jeannie Cheatham had a jam session, so that's where I met a lot of musicians. My
Hmm.
friend Marshall Hawkins was playing with them at the very beginning. So, and I think
Hmm.
he met Gilbert early on too. So I might have met him through Marshall.
Right. And by the way, Marshall Hawkins will be performing at the August 1st fundraiser, just so you guys know. Yeah, now I would like to talk a little bit about the conservatory and how
Mhm.
you became an instructor there and just your experience of being an instructor. It's such a great organization. My whole heart believes in this organization because it's changed my son's life and he's become a better musician because of it. And he's made some really good friends. It's just priceless, this organization and the things that the instructors can do for these kids. And it's unlike anything you'll ever experience, I think, as a young musician, because it's not what you're going to get at school. You know,
Right.
it's a different level of training and a different level of attention to detail and music. So how did you get to the Young Lions Jazz Conservatory?
Well, the long and winding road, just like everything
Hmm.
else, uh, I went back to Jimmy Cheatham, our friend who was a trombonist, played with Duke Ellington and Chico Hamilton, and I went to his jam session every week, and his wife was Jeannie, is a great blues singer, and they had really great musicians sitting in with them all the time, and I
Hmm.
was able to fit in with them. And then Marshall found out somehow that I had a master's degree. It's
Hmm.
not something you talk about at the beginning because it had
Right,
nothing to do with what we were doing, you know. And then I
right.
went to the jam session, and Jimmy Cheatham said, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I said, "Was that how you auditioned for a blues band?" You know, play blues and jazz. Say, "I have a
Right.
master's in English." You know, he
Yeah,
said, "No, no, we
exactly.
need you to teach." And he was at UCSD, and he wanted me to teach the guitar students there because there were a lot of guitar students there. So I did that for a few years. Then they fired all the adjunct faculty,
Oh.
uh, and had and I went on the road for a few years and taught. And I didn't teach at all really for a few years, and then one of my friends recommended me at Palomar College, and they needed somebody that had a master's and had experience playing. So they hired me there. And then I also taught at Miracosta and Mesa College. And since 2000, I was asked to teach at San Diego State. I was there for 20 years.
Hmm.
And through all that time, you know, eventually Gilbert started the conservatory, and I knew about it, and we'd see each other fairly often, and I knew that the program was good.
Hmm.
And then eventually he had added another combo and invited me to teach for him, asked me if I would be willing to do it. And I was just ready to retire from all the other schools, so it worked out perfectly because
Oh, good. Yeah, that's
I
nice.
left San Diego State and Mesa and Miracosta. And my wife says, "Say you retired, don't say you quit. It sounds better."
It does.
But
It sounds classier.
yeah, so and I really enjoy this because I hadn't really been working with high school students before, only college. You know,
Hmm.
I taught at 3 community colleges, San Diego State. I taught for a couple of years up at Idlewild Arts too, where Marshall lives. He lives up there and teaches in the mountains, but that was too much of a commute,
Yeah.
so I
Hmm.
didn't do that for very long. And that's a whole different thing because it's a private art school where they live there, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, the conservatory now, it's really a great program, and I'm just honored to be asked to join it. Gilbert said, I didn't know if you'd want to do this. I was nervous to ask you. I said, oh, it's an honor really to join. So
Yeah.
we're really happy with the faculty and all the groups now. And I think this last concert was the best one we've had so far. The student recitals, I was really
Yeah,
proud of
we were talking.
everybody.
Yeah, we talked about that real briefly before we started the actual interview, and how a lot of a lot of this time, this school year, was spent on Zoom, and there was very little time. How many weeks were they together live out of this school year?
I think it's been since February. I don't know. We had the whole year is a blur to me. The last
I
year
know,
and a half.
really, it is a blur. I agree. It just, the time together was much shorter than the time
Yeah.
on Zoom, right? But they came together. They came, and to mention this as well, I mean, music is very tactile, right? You have to be touching your instrument, and you need to be playing it, right?
Not only
With your
that, but
mouth.
it takes place in real time, and in Zoom
Yes,
there's a delay,
yes,
so you
yes.
can't actually play together at all.
Right, right. So there
Someday they'll
were,
probably perfect that, but
yeah,
not yet.
yeah. I know. You would think we can go to the moon, we could figure out this delay, and
you know, but it's so we had to just figure out. The teachers met, a bunch of times to try and figure out different things that we can work on. How can we give them things to do, keep
hmm
everybody engaged, and keep them practicing because they're all stuck at home like we are. And so
yes.
we came up with all kinds of ideas on how to do it, but we really knew the whole time that we're not actually playing. So we're
hmm
talking about it, and I like that. I think Elvis Costello said, "Writing or talking about music is like dancing about architecture.
Yeah.
So different. It
It's
has
so
nothing
different.
nothing really to do with it at all. Even
Yeah.
though I read books about music all the time, when I do it, then I read the lives of the great composers during
Right.
COVID here. It's a big, huge book, but as I went through it, I'd listen to each of those
Yes.
composers.
Yeah. And then kind of put it together with what
Yeah,
you're reading. And yeah, exactly. And for a music program that should be in person, that you all did a fantastic job at keeping these kids engaged, and they would have things that they have to work on. And then, at one point we had a recital that was all virtual, and they did a great job of streaming it on Facebook, did a lot of live Facebook streams. Each kid would send in a recording, and someone would magically put them together.
yeah. And that was an important thing because nowadays, I think every form of entertainment, and especially in music, it has to have some kind of visual component to it.
Yes.
People
hmm
aren't just listening to music anymore. That'll always be there, but people want to see you playing too.
Yeah, yeah, you have to thank MTV for that. They
Well,
changed they
and
changed all
YouTube
that.
now too. So that's
And
it's
YouTube.
just part of
hmm
the deal. So they all had to kind of up their game a little bit as far as the technology, and that's been
Yes.
good for everybody, for all of us, not just the students, but for the teachers too.
Yeah. And your ensemble this year, what was your age range of kids?
I had two of them, and that's one of the things that you try and balance because you have some people with very little experience, 10 or 11 years old,
hmm
middle school students, and then you've got seniors in high school who are almost 18 or already 18 and have been
hmm
playing for a few years.
hmm
So at the one end, you have groups that are everyone's experienced and they're the best band. They're ready to go. They're ready to play
hmm
with anybody.
hmm
But the other people have to help each other along. And I had some experience with that in community college because I taught guitar classes with 15 or 20 students, and
hmm
they're all different ages. From
hmm
from still in high school and trying to take a couple classes at college to see if they're interested in going there, and
hmm
people that are my age or older that have been playing their whole life and just want to have a place to hang out with people and play guitars. So
hmm
you have to kind of divvy it up and say, okay, now you two know your part. Teach it to these guys because they
Right.
need extra help with where to put their fingers.
Yeah. And the kids do great. The kids do support each other, and they do help each other. There's not a kid standing on the stage going, rolling his eyes like,
No,
oh, come on. No, they encourage each other. They're like, yeah, that was great. That was
yeah,
awesome. And
yeah, they
because
do.
everybody's been there. Everybody's been there. Everyone has
They're
started.
patient and they know when someone didn't practice. Well, why didn't you practice? We did. It's kind of like
Yeah.
that. But,
hmm
they don't ever say you'll never be able to play. There's no weird attitude like that. They're encouraging
No.
each other all the time, as far as I've seen.
Yeah, they're very good at encouraging each other and helping each other, and they really do come together because when you think about uh the age that they are, some of these kids 10 years old, and you watch the transformation from day one when they started to the end, you think, wow,
Yeah.
they're sponges. They kind of soak it all up and they learn very quickly. If you have a child that's interested in an instrument, jump on it now because they'll learn so fast. They will learn so fast how to play an
They do it.
instrument.
And the longer you have that instrument in your hands, the more you're going to like it, the more comfortable you'll be with it. So
Hmm.
I feel lucky that even though I couldn't really take it in school and had just a couple of lessons from neighborhood guys,
Hmm.
that I had it in my hands from an early age. And so when I
Hmm.
really wanted to study and learn more, then, I kind of knew how to go about it. It wasn't a
Hmm.
strange thing that I was getting used to it, because I've had a lot of college students who just pick up the guitar for the first time and it takes them a couple of years to just build some strength and dexterity
Hmm.
along with all the info they have to get. So,
Right. And to be clear, in case you guys don't know who are watching about what an ensemble is, it's a mix of instruments and a mix of musicians. I mean, he's got a drummer in there. Did you have a guitarist in your ensemble
one of my
this
groups
year?
I did, the other one I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I had one with the guitar and one without. And then I had one group had four horn players, piano, bass,
Mm-hmm.
drums, and guitar. And the other one had three horns and piano, bass, and drums.
Mm-hmm. And how do you handle that? Because your instrument is a guitar, and now you're trying to teach a group of kids that are playing instruments that are not in your wheelhouse. How do you approach that? How do you teach kids how to play a song?
Well, we use the songs. The
Mhm,
song comes first. So uh, no matter what, I mean, I had to learn, I had to prepare charts in the E flat and B flat keys for the horns and like that. But we have a list of tunes in the curriculum, and I said these are songs you have to memorize.
mhm,
Let's work on that now, And I'll
mhm,
teach them the melody, and if someone's struggling with it, we'll slow everything down and have them work on it one note at a time if we have to, and then have them play it together and then work on different tempos and different treatments of the song. But
mhm.
and then, of course, once they're playing that and trying to solo on it, then the questions come up about harmony and what notes do I use and why does this sound bad and what does sound good.
Mhm.
So I think the songs, because that's how I learned to play. I learned to play the tunes first, and then I had to deal with what's going on with this,
Right.
harmony wise. And the older musicians will just kind of tell you and leave you to
Mhm,
6 months
mhm.
later you figure it out. So
Right.
we can speed it up from there quite a bit. But most of them have some kind of private instructor too. So they take those songs to them and learn to control the instrument, get some command of the instrument. And then they're
Right.
inspired by the other kids in the class too, I think. It'll
Mhm,
be better when they get to hear the other groups too, because a lot of them, it's at the end of the semester before they hear the concert, before they hear the other students and know what's
mhm.
possible, really possible within a couple of years. It's pretty inspiring.
It's very inspiring. And they do have to audition each year to be put in a different ensemble because, like you said, there's different levels. Because you're not going to put someone who's 10 years old and just learning how to instrument in the best group, right? You got to
Right.
put them with people with who are at the same level
But
as
also
them. So,
it has to do with the times they're available.
yes.
What time of day are they available? They all have other activities that they're doing too. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's challenging, but Gilbert does a good job of making sure
Mhm.
everyone's accommodated as best as you can, because the balance is you have to try and inspire the youngest students without giving them too much attention to take, because you have to keep
Mhm.
the more experienced ones in the group engaged and keep
That's
them
true.
challenged too.
Mhm. You
So
don't want
it's
them to be bored and losing interest
right.
and not want to come back, right?
Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
just tell them that, you guys have to get it together fast because we don't want him to be, this guy's
Exactly.
not the
Yeah,
best
be
in the group. We
honest.
want him to, we want to come up to his level. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody does such a great job. It really is, and it's just amazing. I every time I tell people about a show, whether it's at Panama or anything, anywhere these kids are performing, I have to kind of tell them, listen, this isn't you're not going to watch a elementary school performance. We're not
mhm.
playing scales here. These kids are talented musicians. These are you're going to watch some really talented kids. And they're keeping jazz alive. Jazz is a very different kind of music. It's not straightforward, I think, like rock and roll or blues. You know, you get the blues, the 1, the 4, the 5. That's it. It's like you're just going through the same thing, right? That's my extent of musical knowledge, by the way. But you know, it's very intricate. And there's many times that I ask Elijah, how do you know? How do you know how to play that? If someone comes up to you and says, I have this new song,
Mm-hmm.
start playing the drums. They just know. They just, and it's just such a unique type of music. And to hear young kids get it and grasp it and love it as much as the people who are teaching them, it's really just inspiring. Very, very inspiring. It's good stuff.
It is. And I remember being young enough that I just went out and played without knowing I should be scared about it.
Oh, so
I
that's
didn't.
good.
Yeah. So I was out
Ignorance
on
is
stage.
bliss,
It
isn't it,
was in a way.
sometimes?
Yeah. And you just go out and make your mistakes and do what you do, and then you slowly improve.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Bob. This was really great. I really am so glad I got to speak with you and get to know you a little bit more. I appreciate everything that you do at the conservatory with guiding these kids to becoming better musicians and you know, better at their craft. And if you want to hear Bob play, where can they find you and to follow you around when you start getting more gigs now that California is opening up, right?
Yeah, it's just coming back. We're starting to do some things. There'll be things that I'm playing at a winery up in Escondido called Rancho Guajito, and
Oh, nice.
mainly the things that I'm doing. If I advertise at all, I'm pretty lazy about it because I'm usually a sideman. But
Yeah.
if anybody in the band makes a post on Facebook, then I add it on my page or they share it on my page. So that's one of the
Okay.
quickest ways. I do have a website, but I haven't updated it lately because there's been so little work for the last year. But
Right. Right.
it's starting to happen again now. And Gilbert's back at the Westgate on Friday nights. I'll probably go there this week and play a little bit at the end of the night. Our
Okay.
friend Christopher Holiday sometimes stops by, and he has a great band all month. He said Tyler Crutel, Joshua
Oh,
White, and
yeah,
Bill
he's great.
Hawkins. It's going to
Those
be
two
fun.
together, Tyler and Joshua White, the two of them together. Woo-wee. You want to see some amazing drumming and piano playing? Go catch those
I
two
got to
playing
hear them when
together.
they were. I heard them 10 years ago when they were just kids.
And they were just
They were
kids.
good to
Yeah.
begin with, but they weren't this good. Now they can play with
Oh my
anybody.
goodness. Yes, Tyler is Elijah's drum teacher. And he's a young man. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just amazing. But you put him, and somehow the connection between him and Joshua White playing off of each other
It's
is
amazing.
really spectacular. Spectacular. Yeah, some really amazing musicianship there. So we will put all the links of how people can get to you in the description below. And
Okay.
thank you again very much for being on the show today. Thank you.
All right.
And we'll see you guys next time on Gabbing with Gabby.
Yeah,
Bye.
August 1st.
That's right, August 1st, the fundraiser.